And here we go. So once again, I'd like to welcome you to this seminar entitled Selling E-Bikes to Law Enforcement, Understanding Their Unique Needs. Now, for those of you already selling e-bikes to bicycles, e-bikes to law enforcement and other public safety, thank you. For those of you that don't at this time, I would like to encourage you to do so, as I believe bike officers, the vast majority of the time, have positive impacts with police community relations. My name once again is Clint Sandusky. I'm a retired police officer from Riverside Community College here in California. Here are my credentials right here. I was a bike cop for 23 years. I'm still an active CalPost bike patrol instructor. I'm also involved with IPMBA, that's the International Police Mountain Bike Association, and I'm actually on their e-bike task force as a member. Now, I am not a board member, so I can't officially speak for IPMBA, but I do a lot of stuff for IPMBA. In fact, I've been involved with them for 26 years. And as far as e-bikes go, hey, I commute, run errands, train, still teach on, patrolled, and race on e-bikes. And here's my patrolled e-bike right here. Now, I never had a chance when I was still in active law enforcement to ride this bike. I got it after I retired. But I do patrolled it at my church, and this was for a car show, so pretty cool. Some housekeeping things. This presentation or seminar will be recorded for later viewing, and you probably already found that to be true. It is going to be fast-paced and power-packed. Now, I don't know if you noticed within my seminar's webpage or page, I've included some documents for your benefit that you can download and view later. This seminar does represent my personal thoughts and opinions. And at the conclusion, please join me and your fellow attendees with any questions and or comments you have within the virtual, and for mine, it's going to be the CABDA Q&A lounge. And please reserve your questions until the lounge because I can't see them anyway, sharing the screen and the PowerPoint. But I can tell you yesterday we had a pretty long and healthy discussion after my presentation yesterday, which brings me to this. If you missed my presentation yesterday entitled E-Bike Safety, How Retailers Are the First Line of Defense, I would really like to encourage you to go back and view it. Like I said, we had a healthy and informative discussion in the lounge yesterday that actually went on for an hour. I was quite surprised, and I bet most of you already know this. E-bike safety is a hot topic in communities all across the country. I wanted to show you this just as an example. Now, this is out in Southern California, and these are agencies that I know of, and there may be more. And if you know of more, shoot me an email, and my email address will be there in the end. Now, these are SoCal law enforcement agencies that I know of that are using e-bikes. LAPD, they've probably got the largest e-bike fleet in the country, approximately 25. Unfortunately, with budget cuts, all their bikes are parked right now. Very sad. Culver City PD, they exclusively use e-bikes, and last time I heard they had 12 to 15 e-bikes. That's quite a lot. Here's some other departments, and you can kind of see a theme here. There's a lot of beach cities that use e-bikes. And here's my second page. It started to get larger, so there's some more examples. I wanted to show you this because there's a lot of not only public but private sectors that are now using e-bikes to varying degrees. So here's an example, not only law enforcement, EMS, etc., but all these other sectors are using e-bikes. Now, I'm not quite sure about Border Patrol. If anybody has any question or has any information, if they're using it, I'd love to know that about that as well. So let's get to the meat of the presentation. What the unique e-bike needs are of law enforcement and other public safety agencies, because it's important to know to better serve your public safety customers. So the top considerations for law enforcement. And so we're talking about the duty e-bike. It must be high quality and durable. It must be from a reputable manufacturer and compliant to law. So it's got to be either a class 1, a class 2, or class 3. It can't be this. I'm only going to show this for a second to because I don't want to validate this machine. And in fact, I'm going to cover it up. So that was what People for Bikes calls an out-of-class electric vehicle. Now that machine goes up to 50 miles an hour, has a 5,000 watt motor, rear hub motor, and weighs 154 pounds. Now that is not a legal e-bike, and these type of out-of-class electric bike vehicles will only hurt your businesses and the industry as a whole. Also, top considerations, hey, you know, whether it's a conventional bike or an e-bike, we always need to make sure that it's properly fitted for the rider, and preferably be designed and built to meet the specific needs of law enforcement and other public safety. And we'll talk about that more in upcoming slides. Going on, and this is kind of the new trend with full suspension e-mountain bikes, and I'd recommend it for duty e-bikes, an e-mountain bike optimized fork, and we all know what that means, a beefier steer tube, stanchions. Now, as far as travel, I would say a minimum of 100 millimeters travel, but as an example on the Bulls Sentinel model that LAPD helped them produce, it's got 120 millimeter travel. I think that would be the longest travel needed. Hey, they have to have good hydraulic braking systems. That's a must. And of course, I would recommend 203 rotors, at least with 2 pistons as a minimum. As far as tires, if your public safety cyclists are going to be riding mostly in urban environments, hey, some kind of street combination urban tire, and you can see some of the common sizes there. Now, as far as fat tires, I know there's a lot of e-bikes that have fat tires, and I guess they are more comfortable to ride, but I would say those are really only needed for special use, say like the snow, the sand, the mud. And they really need to come with some type of puncture protection. Now, whether it's a heavy duty tube, a tire liner, a tire insert, for those people that are more experienced mountain bikers, they may want to go tubeless, but I would caution you on that, because if the bikes sit for a while, that sealant is just going to dry up. So, you know, I would inquire as to, you know, how often they're going to use it and this and that as far as using tire sealant. Knobbies, hey, really only if they're riding off-road, snow or sand, because there's a couple of reasons for law enforcement. Number one, you want that good center rubber bead down the middle of the tire for good contact on the road. And the faster you go, and you all know this, on a set of knobbies, they do whine, and that could be a safety tactical situation for officers. So I would say stay away from knobbies unless they're riding off-road and stuff. Also with the duty bike, here's some key accessories that law enforcement likes. A quality rear-mounted kickstand, non-spring loaded, because we teach officers in dismounting and mounting their bikes to take down or pull up the kickstand with their feet. So we don't want a spring-loaded one popping up. At least 1 water bottle cage minimum. Also a quality rear-mounted cargo rack, specific to the need. As an example, EMS, because they carry heavier loads, they would want a higher load rated rear rack. If the e-bike doesn't come with some drive unit that's got a display, get them a cycle computer. That's good, not only for them knowing how fast they're going, but also for maintenance needs and to track that. Public safety specific lighting system and siren, that's a big one. And I say with more speed is the need for more lumens. So as an example, if they're riding a class 3, 28 mile an hour e-bike, I would say, you know, as an example, Night Rider has got a very good public safety or law enforcement lighting system. Surface, I believe, has got the most lumens on their police TSL light, 1400 lumens. So you want a lot of light downrange so you can see and you can be seen. Also, the type of e-bike. Now, I recommend a e-mountain bike hardtail for normal urban and light trail use. Now, throughout the history of the modern e-bike, the modern bike patrol, which came out in the late 80s, the mountain bike is the most practical bike for public safety use for a number of reasons. So therefore, an e-mountain bike would be the most common and best choice, really. As far as class for law enforcement, I would recommend a class 3, 28 mile an hour. Now, you have to be careful because you need to make sure that the class 3 e-bikes are allowed within their jurisdiction. And that 8 extra miles an hour compared to a class 1 could get an officer out of that kill zone or to that officer down call. So I really do think, yes, it's going to cost more money, but I really do think for law enforcement, a class 3 is the way to go. For security, EMS, fire, etc., you know, to lessen the cost, I think a class 1 would be more than sufficient. System or the motor. For law enforcement, I would recommend a mid-drive. And as far as torque in Newton meters, I'd say anywhere between 65 to 85. And that comes in quite useful as we teach officers, especially on e-bikes, to go up and down stairs. And I tell you, e-bikes do love stairs. And it's a breeze going up a set of stairs with an e-bike. And of course, higher torque would help with that. Now, I want to be fair and balanced. And I do know of an EMS provider in Texas that uses kind of an unusual rear hub drive pedal assist only e-bike, and they love them. So don't get me wrong. I would also say for law enforcement, I would stay away from class 2 with the throttles. And here's an example. Out here in Southern California, out in our desert community, there's a police department that has throttle e-bikes. And so what do you think when they're going up and down the boulevard with their e-bikes? Are they pedaling the bikes, or are they letting the bikes do all the work with the throttle? I think you probably know the answer to that. Also, battery-wise, I would recommend a minimum of 500 watts. And as an example, when LAPD was using their e-bikes, they worked 10-hour shifts. And on a fully charged 500 watt-hour battery, and it's a Bosch battery, they got 2 full shifts. So that's pretty cool. And I know now, like Bosch and some others do have the 625s. Hey, so even better. Other things law enforcement considers, hey, how the bike looks. And I don't know, maybe that's more me, but hey, if the bike looks cool, I'm probably going to ride it more. Warranty is a big one, especially for agencies, not only on the bike, but of course the motor and the battery. Law enforcement's looking for quality service and quick turnaround time. Now I know right now during COVID and with all the repairs going on out there with your bike shops, that may be hard, but that's one of the things that law enforcement is looking for. So just be aware of that. Also, they want a friendly relationship with their local bike shop. And I think that's a cool thing, bringing the community together as well. Now, this is very important because I've heard stories of this. It's very important prior to purchase to actually have some of the actual users or officers of the e-bikes come into your shop and demo them. So they're happy with the bike. It's going to work for them, because the worst thing you would want them to do, and their agency, is to go back and find out that this bike didn't meet their needs and it just sits parked in a storage container. Not good. Now, initial cost. Now, this is the biggest concern of law enforcement and public safety. And I draw this in some respect from the responses from the IPMBA e-bike survey that we conducted in late 2018-19. And in that survey, and it was a non-scientific survey, we had 409 respondents. And so initial cost was the biggest concern. Now, as an example, and I ride Trek, so I'm going to use it as an example. So right now, Trek's conventional service model lists for that right there that you can see. Now, their service electric is over 3 times as much. Now, departments are already good at this, but you can, when they come in and they may have a little sticker shock, there's always donation, fundraiser, grants out there, community associations, etc. As an example, out here in Southern California, the city right next to me, the local police department got a federal community policing grant, and they're going to get a couple e-bikes, and built into that grant was training. So we're going to get them trained up once they get their bikes. Now, the second and third concerns, and this was once again based on the survey, was battery life, range, and maintenance costs. And I really do think now with these modern e-bikes, you can alleviate these concerns by just telling them the current facts with these 625 watt-hour batteries. I think battery life and range anxiety is out the door. And as far as maintenance costs, performing normal maintenance on an e-bike really isn't that much more, and the motors just last for a long time with virtually no maintenance. Yes, chains, brake pads, tires. I just replaced my rotors after about 3 years of having my bike, so that's not really concerns anymore. And the fourth one was weight considerations. I really put that up for myself at number 2, but that was number 4 on the survey. And an e-bike versus a conventional bike, you're going to add probably at least 15 pounds. Now, I would recommend, I think the ideal weight right now for a public safety or law enforcement e-bike is around the 48 to 50 pound area. Performance, it's no different whether it's conventional bike or not. So good componentry, and all my bikes have Shimano components on them. So I'd say at least the ore. I know some public safety bikes have a XT rear derailleur. That's fantastic. So I would say at least the ore. On my duty bike, as far as rotors as an example, I have SLX rotors, 203s. Selection of pedals are really important, especially on an e-bike. Faster startup, slow down, lurching, motor overrun, etc., and getting on and off the bike a lot. So I would say for most public safety cyclists, they'll benefit from a good flat pedal. And of course, a good flat pedal means a thinner construction, a wider profile, and longer removable pins. So that's what I would suggest. Functionality, including accessories. So, hey, the ability to add a water bottle, to put on all their police lights and sirens is a good thing. Ease of use, especially the computer, this display, keep it minimal. And that's what I love about Bosch's Purion display. And then talking about ease of use, we have an acronym in law enforcement, and excuse me, we call it KISS, keep it simple, stupid, but really keep it simple, because the officers have a lot more things to worry about than manipulating everything on their bikes. Maximum total weight restrictions, you always have to figure in the fact that the officers are going to be carrying 15, 20 plus pounds extra gear on their bikes. So you need to figure that into the max combined weight of the bicycle rider and cargo. This could be very important factor for EMS, because some of their panniers can carry 20 pounds of basic life support and advanced life support. Now, questions for retailers to ask public safety customers, and this is really to better serve their purchasing needs. So question one, what type of public safety agency are you? And here's some examples right here. Also, have you had any current or past experience with e-bike use? I think that's an important one. The selection of the vehicle, or in this case, the e-bike. What type of riding services environments are you going to be on? The frequency and duration of rides. So as an example, some agencies may only ride their e-bikes once a week, maybe 3 times a week, 5 times a week. Shift-wise, usually law enforcement either goes in 8-hour shifts, 10 or 12-hour shifts. So that would be important. The type of riding you're patrolling. Now, this is mission specific. So that would be either police, EMS, fire. Hey, maybe they're only going to ride the e-bikes for special events, dignitary protection, at night for stealth, crowd operations, etc. And of course, hey, are they going to be riding it in the snow, the sand, the mud? So that's important too. And hey, and ask them, hey, what are your preferences and budget? So a final question for retailers to ask, and I just love this article that Claudia Wasco of Bosch e-bike systems here in the United States posed in her article entitled, "Is an e-bike right for your bike patrol?" So she went on to say, police department can start by looking at the traditional bikes with which the department has had the most success, the style and features that officers like best. I like that. Then that can be transferred to the e-bike. So if they like a particular brand that you sell, show them that e-bike counterpart. Now here's the big one, and I know this isn't within your realm, but I would encourage you, as you do have law enforcement or public safety coming in, curious about purchasing some e-bikes, at some point mention to them the importance of e-bike specific training. It is really key, because these bikes are faster, heavier, and at times less nimble. So here's an example, and you can see this is quite extensive of the things that law enforcement needs to know. And what I'll show you here, out here in Southern California, and actually across California, my buddy and I, and he's a CalPost bike instructor too, we do offer an 8-hour e-bike transition course. So for you that aren't out my way in SoCal, I would highly recommend, as another professional, quality, and experienced e-bike training, is once again the International Police Mountain Bike Association's e-bike training module, and you can see it right there. So some resources for retailers selling e-bikes to law enforcement and other public safety agencies. IPMBA's got a wonderful e-bike resources page on their website that you can browse through and see some wonderful information, including IPMBA's position statement on use of e-bikes by public safety cyclists. Now within that, and an article I wrote also for officer.com, and this was geared toward officers, how to select a public safety e-bike. And a lot of that information in there is what we just went over, plus some more. Now, you may know Dean Yobi. He's the managing editor from Brain, and he wrote an article for us a couple of years ago. Now, in that article, he quoted Maureen Becker of the International Police Mountain Bike Association. And she said retailers shouldn't necessarily count on large group sales if interest continues. Now, I can tell you, interest and use of e-bikes by law enforcement and other public safety agencies is increasing more and more every day. So unless you're selling to like an LAPD, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, Seattle, Portland, you're not going to get a large amount of sales. It may be in the 2s or 3s. So, but I'd like to think you were doing it for the good of the community and for public safety as a whole. Some wonderful resources out there for cycling in general, and we've started providing these resources in our bicycle training out here in California, and showing all their wonderful videos and stuff, is an organization called Cycling Savvy, and you can go to cyclingsavvy.org for that. Also within their website, they've got a wonderful video entitled Understanding Cyclists' Position on the Roadway, and that was for our friends in law enforcement, but I say it's good for anybody. Also, I would highly recommend this fantastic resource for your shop, and this is from John Allen. It's part of his Bicycling Street Smarts booklet series that came out 20 years ago. So he's got a new 2019 Cycling Savvy edition. And if you, as an example, if you buy a case of 168, that's $336 or $2 a book. What a wonderful resource to pass out to your customers. Here's my email address if you have any questions and you'd like to contact me in the future. I would like to remind you that please join me now in the CABDA Q&A lounge. And I would like to thank you and say take care. And this ends the seminar, and see you in the lounge. Thank you.